where they replaced the concrete slabs of the footpath with tarmac. And when roads are riddled with potholes,
yes,
perfectly good pavements are replaced, but not the potholes aren't repaired. And it's just unbelievable that. And the other thing which they did in Crewe, which is very ominous. I'm not sure you heard of this, but they consulted last year on something they called the Little Holland, which is and they designated an area the south part of Crewe and parts of the villages surrounding Crewe to be a Little Holland, and it's all a bit ambiguous what the Little Holland meant, but you can see what was really behind it. They're talking about more cycle lanes, easier for pedestrians, usual stuff. You know what I'm talking about.
A 15-minute city.
Well, it was ominous, and that consultation that has taken place, whether it will now proceed, we'll have to see. But it does make you wonder. But like you said earlier, a lot of these councils, most of the councils, seem to be following an agenda which is given to them from outside, and they're not following certainly not following the agenda of the people who elected them. And I've recently uncovered some amazing figures on potholes. The government gives several £1 million each year to Cheshire East to fix potholes. And so I asked the obvious question, well, how many potholes have been filled and all the rest of it? And it turns out that since 2009-10, when Cheshire East was formed, in Crewe, reported potholes has trebled. And these millions that the government are giving each year to Cheshire East to fix potholes, the majority of it is not spent on potholes. Now, what's happening there?
Yes, where is it being spent?
Well,
Well, in our area, our council highways department just went and redesigned all the curbs and pavements. They went and dropped all the edges of the pavements down the road, this new modern design, which no one asked for, spending all that money on it, and it's all flooded. When it rains, it forms pools and it goes up onto the pavement. And also there's no protection when vehicles turn around corners like big tractors either. There was nothing wrong with it. And I complained. And what happens when you complain is they sent someone to do the opposite and something to spite you, like changing something else further on the road. So, and why, the problem is the same, like this headmaster's been saying in the staff rooms at schools. No one does critical thinking anymore. People are getting less intelligent. All through the history of England, the history of England, the roads and highways and pavements, they learned something through the 1920s, the 1930s, the 1940s, the 1950s, the 1960s, the 1970s, the 1980s. And these new highways executives, they don't get all of the knowledge that was learned all the way back through in history on the pavements. And there's reasons why they didn't drop curbs down on corners and do things like that. And now these maverick executives come out of university and they're trying all these new things, these new fancy ideas, like you've just said, to do these little Denmarks or cycle lanes and this and that. And it's these wacky, crazy new ideas, but they don't understand that the reason they built them a certain way, because they learned mistakes in the past and they were made that way for a reason. And now, for example, a corner of our street has been massacred. I actually like it. I'm not bothered about the potholes because it's got a bit of character on that street. But they went and it was a very, very smooth road, country lane. and they went and tarmacked it rough. And then the other side, which has a nice rustic entrance, they went and modernised it and dropped it down recently when I went furious and did a petition about it. And it's flooding now because they wanted to be all Euro and all modern and just sit in offices with pencils and do modern designs, and they're getting handed down these directives from government, and they don't know why all through the 1920s and 1930s and 1940s and 1950s and 1960s, why did they design the pavements? Why didn't they put it then so you can roll a pram up, you know, so you can roll a penny farthing up, so you can roll a... They did it because they were flooding. They did it for protections. Now, it didn't have too much protection before. It wasn't massively high. I don't want it massively high. It defined the corner. So there was a barrier with the... Not a barrier, but the pavement was a defined edge, right? And now you've got people turning, they're getting lazy, and, you know, wheels go closer and closer up onto the pavement, and it floods. So they should just leave it alone. And they're spending the money playing around with all these things and cycle lanes, and like you said, not spending it on major potholes or main roads in other areas that need the money. And this is evidence from a councillor now. This councillor guy is telling us what the highways are up to.
That's the next question.
And spending it on Stonehenge Tunnel when it's the most expensive road in the world for length. And we're trying to stop them from building a Stonehenge Tunnel.
But of course, why? I mean, if that's ring fence for potholes, then what are you doing with it?
But it can't. See, it could be that the government have been so foolish as to say the council they should money for potholes, but not ring fenced it. If they'd done that, the government have been total fools. But it appears that must be the case because otherwise the money couldn't have been siphoned. It's been siphoned off for something else. But what?
Yeah.
More highways projects, more forced cycle lanes, sending traffic to other areas, making other areas noisy, overdevelopment, allowing too many industrial and building complexes in areas that people don't want and oppose, like in Murfield, with that Incora place that entire villages petitioned and objected against for years. We're being taken over by corporate interests and entities, which means that the actual residents aren't important anymore, or they get new residents in, and hopefully they get new residents in who are pro the main parties so they can get more voters in who will vote against the people who already live there, which is a takeover, a political transformation and takeover of the area, so that there's no preservation of an area. And a lot of it's out of people's control. Well, actually, apparently these parish councils could have more power. We've got a parish councillor and she always says, I can't do anything, I can't do anything, I can't do anything. Yet, according to this councillor here, parish councils can have as much power as they want to make themselves. It's only that it's an unpaid job. People have to make the effort to get on there and look into what powers they've got and make the good use out of them.